Hi guys, welcome back to Seize the Day, a channel dealing with epilepsy, Tourette's, mental health conditions, chronic health conditions, and pretty much anything in between. And today I wanted to talk to you about the time I was kicked off of my work premises because I had epilepsy and they suspected me to be drunk or high. So, this actually happened to me, and although it did happen and it's truthful, I do want to avoid saying names. So the woman who did this to me, I'm going to call Professor Umbridge, as was suggested by one of my subscribers. So thank you very much for that. I shouldn't be ticking too much today. I've had a sedative, so hopefully my tics won't bother you too much, or I will cut them out. So, as a precursor to this, I'd already been investigated for epilepsy. I had a neurology appointment booked and my boss knew all about this. She was a former nurse, she knew what was going on in terms of my symptoms, and she knew that I was going to see a neurologist. So just bear that in mind for the story that comes. So, I came into work one morning, as you do, very, very boring, and I had to go to a meeting quite far from me and I can't drive. So it had been sorted out for me that a lady that I didn't know very well was going to pick me up because she was going as well. So I came in as normal, said hello to my boss, Professor Umbridge, and she went in with a meeting with someone. So I left to go with this person. So as soon as I got to this meeting, I was called in by the manager there who said they'd spoken to Professor Umbridge on the phone, and Professor Umbridge had heard my speech and told me that she thought I was either drunk or high because my speech was a bit slurred. As you can imagine, this was a total shock to me, and I was saying, I'm not high, I'm not drunk. Does my speech sound slurred to you now? Do I seem like I'm under the influence? And she said, no. And I was like, okay then, so can you not test me? We've got drug tests here, we've got alcohol tests here. And she wouldn't do that, but she did get on the phone to Professor Umbridge. And I heard her saying to Professor Umbridge, yeah, the same things as you think. So she obviously lied to me and told Professor Umbridge that she also thought I was either drunk or high because of my speech. So I got the phone over from Professor Umbridge, and Professor Umbridge said, look, your speech is slurred, you've gone to Yeovil, and I need you to leave the premises immediately because I think you're either drunk or high. And I was so upset, tears running down my face, you can imagine. I was so confused, and I said, so I'm not drunk, I'm not high. I previously had time off with depression and anxiety, mainly circumstantial because I had been so ill and I didn't know what was going on. I hadn't been diagnosed with epilepsy yet. And she said to me, okay, you're either high or drunk, or you're sick again. And I said, what do you mean by sick again? And she said, oh, you're sick again, you're depressed. And I was like, okay, so what do I do? And she said, no, you have to leave. You have to be escorted off the premises. So this lady, this manager lady, she escorted me off the premises, and I was then stranded in this town. I had no bus money to get home. I had no knowledge of the town at all. The person who was supposed to take me home was in this meeting. I had no way of contacting her, and I couldn't go onto the premises because I'd been escorted off of it. So as you can imagine, I was in a right state. I cried and cried. I didn't know what was going on. And this was extremely unsafe for two reasons. Let's think about this, shall we? So Professor Umbridge basically thought I was either high or drunk, and obviously very upset, and just sent me off in a town I didn't know with no way out of it. Or she thought I was really depressed and escorted me off the premises, and again, no way out of it. That's an extremely dangerous situation to put someone in who's either drunk or high and upset, or depressed, or, like me, had undiagnosed epilepsy, which she knew all about. She knew I was seeing a neurologist in 3 months, so the whole thing was extremely traumatic for me. It was one of the worst experiences. So I just wanted to tell this story basically to say, if this happens to you, please, by all means, you have to fight it, because these people clearly don't know what's going on. So eventually I managed to make my way home, and the Professor Umbridge called me and said, I don't want you to come in for the rest of the week. Later on, when I did get diagnosed with epilepsy and I had to go to hospital, she came round my house and admitted to me, yeah, I did actually know as a nurse that some of those symptoms are the symptoms of epilepsy. But she never apologised. So I don't work there anymore, and what I have done since is raise a complaint because it's not even for me at this point. I just feel like my voice was completely taken away from me because I had no agency, no nothing. I had all these ridiculous sickness targets that I just couldn't hit because I have epilepsy. I had all these conditions and I was trying my best, and she would call me every day I was off sick. She would suggest, one time I went to hospital with a burst stomach ulcer, and she suggested the reason might be codeine withdrawal. And I was like, the first thing I did when I got to hospital was have codeine. They gave me morphine. So definitely wasn't codeine withdrawal. I had a burst ulcer and the morphine made no difference to the pain whatsoever. And she said this like in front of a witness, and there was just so much discrimination. So I guess the message of this story is, if you are discriminated against at work like this, and you feel like you don't have a voice, like me, talk about it. I know it's hard. When you're going through it, it's so hard because you think, I need to get back to work, I need to make money, what can I do? But you have a voice. If you are disabled, if you have a long-term health condition, you have a voice. Talk to me. Talk to someone who's going through it. Talk to your doctor. Talk to your union. Join a union. You do not have to accept that discrimination from anybody. And if anyone would like more information about how to tackle this, or if they want some support, by all means get in touch with me. And so that was a story of how I got kicked off the premises at work in a strange town for being drunk or high, when in fact I was just getting over an epileptic episode and my speech was slightly slurred. I hope you all have great days, and I hope you never have to experience something like this. But if you do, I promise you, help is out there. I'm still fighting this right now. Even though I don't work there anymore, I would hate the idea of anybody else, disabled or otherwise, feeling like they have no voice, like they have no way to fight this. Well, you do, I promise you. And I hope you'll have great days, and I love you very much. Bye.